In March 2007, the serene life of a vibrant English teacher in Japan took an unimaginable turn when she mysteriously disappeared. Lindsay Ann Hawker, a 22-year-old with dreams as bright as her future, had set out to embrace a new adventure in the land of the rising sun. Her journey, filled with anticipation and hope, quickly spiraled into a chilling tragedy that ignited an international manhunt and a relentless quest for justice. Eager to immerse herself in a different culture, Lindsay seized the chance to teach English in Japan, fueled by her passion for exploration. However, fate had other plans. A chance encounter with a man harboring dark intentions transformed her enriching experience into a harrowing ordeal. As days passed without a word from Lindsay, alarm bells rang among her colleagues and family. Investigators, delving into her last known movements, uncovered a horrifying series of events that led them to a shocking crime scene and a cunning suspect who would slip through their fingers for years. The search for Lindsay became not just a pursuit of a missing person, but a desperate race against time to uncover the truth behind her disappearance. What really happened to Lindsay Ann Hawker? The quest for answers would captivate the world and expose the dark underbelly of a seemingly safe place. Lindsay Ann Hawker entered the world on December 30th, 1984, in Coventry, England, as the beloved daughter of Bill and Julia Hawker. The second of three siblings, she grew up alongside her sisters, Louise and Lisa, in a warm and supportive home. From an early age, Lindsay displayed a selfless and compassionate nature, traits that made her a cherished presence at King Henry VIII School, where her peers and teachers admired her. Former headmaster George Fisher fondly recalled her as someone who always prioritized the well-being of others. Her kindness extended beyond the classroom. She dedicated time to volunteering at a local primary school, teaching disabled children how to swim. A passionate reader, Lindsay could often be found completely engrossed in a book, even spending hours in the bath devouring stories from cover to cover. In 2003, Lindsay embarked on her academic journey at the University of Leeds, where she pursued a degree in biology. Her dedication and intellect earned her first-class honours upon graduating in 2006. Though she aspired to obtain a master's degree, she sought real-world experience before continuing her studies. Lindsay was an ambitious and vibrant young woman with an insatiable passion for life. She and her boyfriend, Ryan Garside, had dreamed of travelling the world together for a year. However, when an exciting opportunity arose to teach in Tokyo, Japan, she decided to take the job, postponing their adventure. The plan was for Ryan to join her the following summer, marking the beginning of their long-anticipated journey across the globe. Lindsay was bursting with excitement as she prepared for her new adventure in Tokyo. Determined to be respectful of the culture, she immersed herself in learning about Japanese customs before her departure. In October 2006, at just 22 years old, she arrived in Japan to begin a year-long teaching position at the Koiwa branch of Nova, the country's largest private English school. Reassuring her family that Tokyo was a safe and welcoming place, she eagerly embraced her new life, confident she would build lasting friendships. Despite being thousands of miles from home, Lindsay made sure to stay closely connected with her loved ones in England, frequently communicating with them through Facebook, WhatsApp, Skype, and phone calls. She was thriving, enjoying her time in Japan, and settling in well. She shared an apartment in Chiba with two fellow teachers, one from Australia and another from Canada, who quickly became close friends. 3 months after her arrival, in December 2006, her parents, Bill and Julia, along with her younger sister Louise, travelled to Japan to celebrate her birthday. They marked the occasion at the iconic bar of the Tokyo Park Hyatt, famously featured in Lost in Translation. That night, filled with love and laughter, became a cherished memory for Lindsay's family, a moment frozen in time. Heartbreakingly, it would be the last time they ever saw her alive. One evening in March 2007, as Lindsay wrapped up her workday and headed home, she had an unsettling encounter that would later take on a chilling significance. After taking the train back to Chiba Station, where she typically kept her bicycle, she was approached by a young man who falsely claimed to be one of her students. Lindsay, who knew all of her students by name, immediately recognized that he was lying. As she unlocked her bike to ride home, The stranger persisted, engaging her in conversation and following her as she cycled away. He bombarded her with questions about her background, seemingly determined to keep her attention. When she reached her apartment, he made an unusual request, asking for a glass of water. Perhaps sensing no immediate threat, and knowing her two roommates would be home, Lindsay allowed him inside. Once inside, she introduced him to her roommates, and the man inquired about private English lessons. Since tutoring outside of work was allowed under Nova's rules, as long as lessons were conducted in a public place and a record of the students' details was left, Lindsay agreed to meet him at a cafe. She set her standard fee at 3,500 yen, approximately $32 per hour, something she had done for other students before. As he prepared to leave, the man handed her a slip of paper with his name written as Tatsuya Ichihashi, along with his email and phone number. To Lindsay's surprise, he had also sketched a portrait of her on the sheet, a strange and unexpected addition to their brief encounter. Tatsuya Ichihashi came from a life of privilege, born on January 5, 1979, and raised in both Chiba and Gifu due to his parents' demanding medical careers. His father was a doctor and his mother a dentist. Despite his affluent upbringing and aspirations of following in his father's footsteps, his academic performance fell short, barring him from pursuing a career in medicine. After graduating from Chiba University, Ichihashi showed little ambition, choosing to rely on his family's wealth rather than seeking employment. With a generous monthly allowance of 100,000 yen, approximately $920, he led an aimless existence, seemingly content with drifting through life. Former classmates described him as socially withdrawn, with an intense fixation on violent manga, while his girlfriend painted a different picture, calling him serious and stable. Though he had no official criminal record, there were troubling signs beneath the surface. He had once been a suspect in an assault and robbery case involving a woman, an incident that never reached the authorities because his father paid her 1 million yen, around $6,800, to make the matter disappear. Tatsuya Ichihashi was fanatical about physical fitness, reportedly cycling over 15 miles daily as part of his intense workout routine. However, while his body grew stronger, his mind was unraveling. He confided in friends that he felt increasingly unstable, yet he never sought professional help to address his deteriorating mental state. Beyond his obsession with exercise, he also had a deep fascination with violent manga, an interest that some reporters would later speculate played a sinister role in the events to come. Lindsay Hawker's final steps seemed routine, but they would lead to a chilling disappearance. On March 24th, she left her apartment to meet Tatsuya Ichihashi at a cafe for a private English lesson they had arranged. The meeting appeared to go as planned, until Tatsuya insisted she accompany him to his nearby apartment so he could pay her, claiming he had forgotten his wallet. Trusting him, Lindsay agreed. The two took a short taxi ride, and when they arrived, she assured the driver she would only be a few minutes before heading inside. But those minutes stretched into silence. After waiting for 7 minutes without her return, the taxi driver drove away, unaware he had just witnessed the last known sighting of Lindsay Hawker alive. Lindsay, though far from home, was always in close contact with her family and friends in England. So when an entire Saturday passed without a message, her loved ones assumed she was simply busy. But by Sunday, March 25th, their concern began to mount. This silence was unlike her. Meanwhile, back in Japan, Lindsay's co-workers at Nova became alarmed when she failed to show up for her scheduled classes, something she had never done before. By Monday, March 26th, the unease had turned to panic. Nova staff reached out to Lindsay's father, informing him of her unexplained absence, while her worried roommates filed a missing person report with the police at 2:30 p.m. The search for Lindsay Hawker had officially begun, but the truth waiting to be uncovered would be more horrifying than anyone could have imagined. The investigation kicked off with a review of the available CCTV footage, which offered crucial clues in the hours leading up to Lindsay Hawker's disappearance. The cameras had recorded Lindsay and Tatsuya Ichihashi in the cafe, capturing everything from their drinks being ordered to the intimate conversation as she gave him his private English lesson. The footage followed their departure from the cafe, documenting them getting into a taxi that headed toward Tatsuya's apartment. After dropping them off, the taxi sat idle for 7 long minutes, waiting for Lindsay, who had asked the driver to remain parked. But as time passed and Lindsay failed to reappear, the driver eventually left, unaware that he had just witnessed the last known moments of her life. The following morning, police interviewed Lindsay's roommates, who revealed the unsettling encounter with the strange man who had visited their apartment. They explained Lindsay's plans to give him private English lessons and handed over the piece of paper with his contact information. At 5:40 p.m., 2 officers were dispatched to Tatsuya Ichihashi's apartment building in Ichikawa, a quiet suburb just outside of Tokyo. Lacking probable cause to knock, the officers relied on the cooperation of his neighbors, who allowed them onto their balcony to peer into his living room. They could clearly see that someone was inside, even though the lights were off. What caught their attention, however, was the bathtub, normally fixed in place, now sitting oddly on the balcony. With Tatsuya's previous brushes with the law and growing suspicion that he may have been holding Lindsay captive, the police called for backup at 7 p.m. By 8 p.m., a total of 9 officers were stationed outside his building, but when Tatsuya suddenly emerged, barefoot and carrying a backpack, he bolted. Despite the lack of shoes, he sprinted through the streets, evading the officers chasing him. One officer managed to snatch his bag, finding only gym clothes inside, but Tatsuya was quick, vaulting off the stairs and slipping into the chaos of the streets. At that moment, he disappeared, on the run and evading capture. As the police entered Tatsuya's apartment, they made their way to the balcony to investigate the suspiciously placed bathtub. Upon closer inspection, they discovered that the bathtub had been filled with a disturbing mix of soil and sand. Beneath the surface, a small white hand protruded from the soil, a chilling discovery that led them to uncover Lindsay's lifeless, naked body. Tatsuya had cleverly masked his gruesome act by adding a decomposition agent to the soil, planting flower seeds on top to disguise it as an innocent flower bed. Lindsay had been gagged with a scarf, her hands and feet bound tightly with gardening ties. Shockingly, her head had been shaved, and her hair was found stuffed into a plastic bag nearby. The apartment also contained various wigs, sparking the theory that Tatsuya may have been transgender and had planned to use Lindsay's hair for his own. The post-mortem confirmed the horrific truth. Lindsay had died from strangulation. Neighbors reported hearing unsettling sounds the night of Lindsay's disappearance, loud thuds, as if something heavy was striking metal, followed by dragging noises. When her body was found, it revealed signs of a brutal struggle. Her upper body bore large, egg-sized bruises that appeared to have been caused by repeated blows, likely from fists during a prolonged assault. Additional marks suggested that Lindsay had been kicked or struck with a blunt object, and it was clear she had been slammed into furniture in the apartment. The defensive wounds on Lindsay's arms showed that she had fought fiercely to protect herself, but ultimately, she was overpowered and strangled. Investigators discovered that Tatsuya had made several trips to a local hardware store, purchasing items, including the soil and sand found in the bathtub, leading them to believe the murder had been carefully planned. When Bill was informed that a body had been found, he was already en route to Tokyo to identify his daughter. Upon seeing her, he immediately knew it was Lindsay. She was my daughter. She was so tall and beautiful. She was beaten so badly. My life and my soul just fell beneath me, he told the media, his heart breaking at the sight of her. Meanwhile, Tatsuya remained on the run, and authorities spared no effort in their pursuit of him. Wanted posters showing Tatsuya in various disguises, including as a woman, were circulated nationwide, but despite extensive searches, progress was slow. A raid on a hotel near his residence turned up nothing, and reported sightings in Kabukicho amounted to nothing more than dead ends. By the second anniversary of Lindsay's tragic death in March 2009, the hunt for her killer had still not yielded results. In a final attempt to raise awareness, life-sized cutouts of Tatsuya were distributed, but they had little impact on the investigation. In November 2009, a breakthrough finally came in the search for Tatsuya. He was recognized at a cosmetic surgery clinic in Nagoya, where he had undergone a procedure to slim and lengthen his nose. This wasn't his first attempt at altering his appearance. Tatsuya had performed numerous surgeries on himself. In a desperate attempt to evade capture, He had sliced off part of his lower lip to make it thinner, added folds to his eyelids, and removed the moles that had been visible in his wanted posters. However, traces of the moles remained, and it was this inconsistency that caught the clinic's attention. The clinic sent photos of Tatsuya's distorted features to the police. In response, authorities released a photo of him taken just before his latest surgery, warning the public of his altered appearance. As the media broadcasted his new look, Tatsuya, realizing the case was gaining new momentum, purchased a disguise, complete with a beard, sideburns, and a mustache. But despite his efforts, he was spotted by a vigilant member of the public. After more than 2 years on the run, Tatsuya's fate took a turn on November 10, 2009. Investigators received an anonymous tip that a man resembling the fugitive had been spotted at a ferry terminal. Without hesitation, officers rushed to the scene and apprehended him in Osaka's Suminoi ward as he attempted to board a ferry bound for Okinawa. Once in custody, his identity was confirmed through fingerprint analysis. Initially, Tatsuya remained tight-lipped, offering no cooperation and keeping to a sullen silence during the early days of his detention. However, when confronted with the looming threat of the death penalty, he finally cracked. He confessed to killing Lindsay, but insisted that her death had not been intentional. When Tatsuya's trial finally began in July 2011, he leaned heavily on a defense of accidental death. On the witness stand, he described the horrific events of that day, claiming that he had accidentally strangled Lindsay while attempting to silence her screams during the assault. He even went so far as to tell the court, in front of Lindsay's grieving family, that he had tried to revive her once he realized she had stopped breathing. Before the trial commenced, Tatsuya wrote a letter to Lindsay's family in an attempt to garner their forgiveness, knowing that in Japan, such an act could potentially result in a reduced sentence. In the letter, he expressed his remorse, writing, "There is no one to blame but me. I will take responsibility. I will never forget about her and what I did to her and you. And I will carry my cross until the moment of my death. I am very sorry. I not only destroyed her life, but I also changed your lives. What I did to her and you will never be forgiven. I was evil." However, Lindsay's family rejected his apology, steadfastly requesting that the court show him no mercy and impose the death penalty. The jury, however, was unconvinced by Tatsuya's defense, and the Chiba District Court found him guilty of both the sexual assault and murder of Lindsay. He was sentenced to life in prison. Despite Lindsay's family's plea for the death penalty, Japan rarely imposes capital punishment in cases with a single victim. Additionally, due to Tatsuya's relatively young age and his lack of a criminal record, authorities considered the possibility of rehabilitation, though whether he will ever be rehabilitated remains uncertain. In April 2012, Tatsuya's defense team filed an appeal, once again claiming that Lindsay's death was an unfortunate accident. However, the court upheld its original verdict, emphasizing that Tatsuya had acted with deliberate intent and that the murder had been premeditated. His appeal was swiftly denied. Tatsuya was eligible for parole in 2022. Currently, there is no public information suggesting that Tatsuya Ichihashi has been considered for parole. In Japan, inmates who are serving life sentences can apply for parole after 10 years, but the decision is heavily influenced by the individual's conduct and perceived rehabilitation during their time in prison. The tragic disappearance of Lindsay Ann Hawker has etched an indelible mark on the hearts of her family, friends, and countless individuals who followed her harrowing story. This vibrant young woman, filled with promise, kindness, and ambition, was taken from the world in a shocking and senseless act of violence. For years, her loved ones faced the relentless torment of uncertainty, an agonizing wait for answers and justice that seemed perpetually out of reach. Driven by an unyielding determination, Lindsay's family tirelessly pushed authorities, their voices rising in a chorus of hope and resilience that ultimately led to the capture and conviction of her murderer. Yet, even with a verdict rendered, no sentence could ever mend the profound grief of losing her. Lindsay's story serves as a powerful reminder of the lurking dangers that can hide behind a seemingly friendly facade, underscoring the critical need for vigilance in our lives. More importantly, it stands as a testament to the extraordinary strength of a family that refused to surrender, ensuring Lindsay's memory would never fade into oblivion. Though her life was tragically cut short, Lindsay's legacy continues to ignite passion for change, raise awareness, and fuel the ongoing fight for justice. Let us always cherish her memory and honor her by committing to a future where her story is never repeated. If you found this video compelling, leave a like and your thoughts in the comments. Be sure to subscribe and watch our other videos.